Peace, peace, peace. Peace. So, yeah, you can purchase the hat at the yard. Shout out to my guy Terrence from Cincinnati. Um, you can tap that or purchase that in at the yard. Let me see. I'm trying to read some. But yeah, shout out to the family. We got a special live today. Shout out to Richie Moon too. We were supposed to go live earlier and discuss the God Body Challenge, but what we decided to do was just do it on his platform via audio, his podcast. So he's gonna upload that tomorrow at 2:22 Eastern time. And we went there. We took it there on that show. It's a lot of information we got into. And I'll probably touch on some of the stuff we talked about on this live here. But what we'll be doing with this live is I got a special guest, Luna the Leo. So what we're going to be digesting and breaking down basically is a stele. And a stele is a specific glyph that they had in Kemet. And, when I bring her on, we'll speak about the importance of it. We'll talk about, the science of it. And we're pretty much just going to decode the glyph. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like this is important for our people to really be symbol literate when it comes to our ancient iconography, because this is technology, that is ours and belongs to us. And, what we've got accustomed to is going to these sacred sites and taking pictures, but what Europeans have caught on to doing was going into these pyramids and or these sacred sites and coming out developing TVs, nuclear fusion devices, computers, projectors, cameras. So we got to get more, like I've always said, inventive with the type of information that we get into, and understand that this information was relative to us and they left it there for us to utilize today. So we're going to tap in. We're going to dive into that. And again, those who are joining, me and Richie, we did our God Body Challenge live, but we did it on his podcast, because last time we went live during the last God Body Challenge, there was a lot of interruptions. Live kept cutting out on us. So we decided to do it on his platform and via audio. So he's going to upload that at 2:22. And, like I said, some of the stuff that we talked about, I'll probably touch on during this live. But with that being said, also, for those who want to tap into the build, for those who know, I've been hosting, I don't consider them consultations. I say that they're conversations for further confirmation, so they're one-on-one dialogue with myself. I hold the build 60 and the build 90. And it's personable, you know what I'm saying? So we just jump on camera just like this, me and, whoever signs up, and we just go back and forth. It's a one-on-one. So tap in, shoot me a DM if you're interested in that. And yeah, it's the build 60 and the build 90. What else I got? Of course, today is day 1 of the God Body Challenge. And me personally, I'm feeling amazing. It honestly feels like this is going to be one of the easiest challenges, and my born day is in 8 days. So I'm thinking about doing, literally 8 days of fasting. I'm thinking about it. I'm considering it. So for those who's tapping in, let me see. Yeah, today's day 1 of the God Body Challenge. Felt like I had something else. Yeah, I think that's it, family. Like I said, for the consultations, the builds, tap in, shoot me a DM, and we'll take it from there. I'll schedule you, put you down, and we'll start building. But Without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and bring my guest on. Like I said, we're gonna get into the science, of course, and tap in to a lot of information relative to the glyphs. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Let me see. And again, for those who's asking about the hat, tap into the yard. THEYARD. All right, family. So let me go ahead and bring her in. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You coming through good.
All right.
Yeah. Like I was telling the family, basically, I feel like it's important for us to really, dive into this information relative to these glyphs,
Mm-hmm.
because this is the, ancient technology, that was left for us. And like, let me reiterate, like I said, basically we've got caught up into the fact that, we think that this is something that dates back long ago, when again, it's there for us to utilize in real time.
Yeah.
So, we've grown accustomed to going to these sacred sites and taking pictures. But like I said, the other people, they go in there, they study the walls, and then they come out building all type of stuff. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's just about being inventive, but we got to be, literate to the ancient iconography that our ancestors left for us.
Yes.
I think this is a pivotal build. We're going to talk about a lot. It's just a lot of information that we got to get into relative to, what our ancestors left us. So what we're going to do, like I said, is break down the specific stele that the ancestors left behind, so that way it can give you guys and the family, a broader scope, not only to the technology that they had back then, but, technology that we can use, today in real time. So
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. We have our bills, and this has been uh, in the making, but everything is in divine timing. But what's most important for people to realize is, number one, if it's in English, it's a lie. So we can't base our interpretations of what our ancestors left on us through English and then trying to interpret it. They had
right.
a clear understanding of what was going down, what was going to happen. It's been known that we pass through a photon belt almost every 250,000 years, and it essentially like memory wipes us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in preparation for that, what do? If we are already a hyper technical, like technically advanced society, we're not going to be writing shit on paper. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
most of our files are going to be digital. So they intentionally scribe things on wall in basalt, which you can only either do with lasers or with diamond. You know what I mean? To leave information, not for themselves. They already knew all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They left it for us in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So my approach when looking at these things is like, okay, what are they trying to communicate to me without words? Basic core concepts that they are trying to get through us directly. If we had to have a cipher to understand it, they would have left a cipher
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
one of the sites because they thorough. They never left a cipher because they were basically counting on us to have, we can get to the point where we understand that this is a site that has sacred information that we need to have. There's
Mm-hmm.
some core concepts we would have already been able to attain. And so
Right.
with base level of information, we can then build on what it is they want to show us. But instead, we only focus on what National Geographic gives us and shows us and tour around the world. And two, when we do get something, we immediately go to budge. We
Right. Right.
immediately go, you know what I mean? We go right there as though this person has a better way to interpret information left for us than we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we have
Mm-hmm.
to stop
Mm-hmm.
approaching this idea that I need some sort of decoder or whatever. The decoder right there is your eyes. They're giving you the clues right there to what you're looking at. And I think that when you shift your perception
Mm-hmm.
of the delays to that, it allows you to see it in a different way, which is what happened in our discussions with this.
Right. And, also too, I speak heavily about, the body being the highest form of technology, specifically the mind, because like I've
Mhm.
said before, the mind is a resonant structure. And the mind is a magnetic field. It's a self-steering magnetic field that corresponds to bioelectrical impulses that connect your sense fields to actual modes of behavior. So based on the perception that you take in relative to the reality that we live outside of how we've been conditioned to look at it, that image, based on how you articulate or interpreting what you're perceiving, is going to be stored in that magnetic field. Now,
Yes.
again, the brain itself serves as a crystal. I've explained this before. The brain itself serves as a crystal, and it's piezoelectric. So a thought applies compression to your brain specifically. So what takes place then is the brain charged up based on the thought or the perception of what you're perceiving, that image being stored in the magnetic field. Your brain transduces that to create a neural network necessary for the body to set up a resonance for you to have that two-way communication with it.
Right.
So that neural network, which is electricity occurring in the brain, is synthesized in the limbic system. And the limbic system deals with memory. It deals with, emotions, feelings, etc. So when this energy or this electricity, this information is coagulated in the limbic system, what takes place now is the pineal gland, being piezoelectric, then translates this information and converts it into an endocrine output, which is a hormone. Now the hormones then take that and instruct the body to produce the necessary information or to stimulate the necessary information that's already encoded within us, and thus bring it to the conscious mind.
Yes.
You see, so again, like you said, everything is relative to perception, and all of our ancestors understood that we just live in almost like a void of complete darkness, and there's really no such thing as darkness, because darkness is actually full of light, or darkness is light. Darkness is due to the fact that electromagnetic radiation is constructively embedding within itself, deeming it invisible. So that's what harmony is, and that's what darkness is. So there's really no such thing as darkness, because darkness is actually light.
Right.
So with that being said, they understood that we live in this void of darkness. And the goal is to utilize our eyes that serve as the outer representation of the nervous system to decode these waves. And based on how we decode them relative to perception, is going to create the necessary work within the body in order to acquiesce to whatever you're trying to communicate to, whether it's the sun, whether it's the trees, whether it's the grass, anything in nature. So, I just want to hone in on that, of the fact that, again, everything is relative to perception. And the key is to understand that, again, we live in a sea of light. So with that being said, and us being photoreceptive, we're here to create a reality by way of decoding it.
Right. And so I think that what I'm hoping to communicate is that there is an actual technical process within the body that allows you to impact your reality. Impacting your reality, shifting your reality, changing your reality is not like a thing you hope for and then it happens. There are electromagnetic processes that happen that make these things happen. Now, of course, at the center of it is faith, right? Is your belief that it happens. But when you actually perceive your body as a mechanism that is used specifically to impact the electromagnetic field of possibility, to bring things into creation, it then takes you more from a user to an admin. You understand? And so it's all because of perception. So perception is really the key in what is the difference between your ability to passively live in your universe and actively create your universe, is what you perceive. Right. And so when we're talking about the limbic system in the body, let's perceive, the limbic system almost is like the wires of a computer. It's what takes the information from the external, from the input, and puts it into the CPU, which is more so the brain, but the internet is the electromagnetic field that's around you, right? The brain allows you to interact, bring information forth, and put information outward. And so with that, that's how we can get to how we got all of this from the stele, because we learned that they were using the natural world, and specifically what the natural world made them feel in order at voltages in their body to be able to conduct the energy necessary to, one, interact with the sun as a portal, two, impact the electromagnetic field around them, and three, imprint information and change their own DNA.
Exactly, exactly. And then that's key too that you hinted on feeling, because when you engage with the sun to be, for example, a portal, there's a feeling that's involved, and that's emotion. But emotion is just electricity surging through the body. So that stimulation is based on you engaging with something outside of you, relative to now you decoding the electromagnetic radiation and thus referring that information back to the sun for you to have that two-way communication with it.
Yeah.
So with that feeling, which would be, a higher level of appreciation, or, joy, happiness,
Mm-hmm.
what's taking place is that there is a direct relationship relative to how you perceive something and the feeling that's being surged through the body. So based on you, and I'm using the sun as, an example, but based on you looking at the sun as, a hyperdimensional gateway, a portal, you're naturally going to have a higher level of appreciation for it. So with
Right.
that being said, what takes place is your mind or your magnetic field, again, is imprinting that visual. So
Right.
if you visualize the sun to be a portal, that's the image that's being impeded on the morphogenetic field, magnetic field, etc.
Right.
Now, the SA node, which are myocytes, which are muscle cells, the
Mm-hmm.
myocytes make up the SA node in the heart. So what the SA node does is translate this light via the imprint that's in the morphogenetic field and translates that over to the AV node, which initiates the pulse that we feel every time we put our hand over our heart.
Right.
So again, relative to you doing something that you enjoy doing, engaging with nature with a broader perspective, this now has a specific reaction on your heart relative to the passion of you following a trajectory by way of engaging with nature on how your ancestors did. And
Yes.
let me add this real quick. And with the SA node now translating this light over into the AV node, this AV node sits in a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
And the AV node sits in a pyramid, and this pyramid is called the Koch triangle. KOT, I want to say KOCH triangle. So that's all relative to sacred geometry. But go ahead and go ahead and add your part to it.
Yeah, and it actually was going right off of that. So, that feeling of appreciation, let's get into the physiology of the feeling of appreciation and why it allows you to interact with the sun as a portal. So when you have that feeling of appreciation, that feeling of familiarity, it sends information into the limbic system, which again are wires, right? So this limbic system then goes to your glands. Now your glands are also your chakras, but what they do is they conduct electromagnetic energy and then translate into something physical and tangible, almost like a bit of information in the form of a hormone. So your system gets this information via electromagnetic emotional information. It translates it to your adrenals. It goes to your adrenals. Your adrenals then start to produce dopamine. Now, dopamine does is it goes throughout the body and goes to the different receptors for it, and it agitates the receptor. And so when it agitates the receptor, what it does is an electromagnetic charge throughout the body. And
Right.
one of familiarity, one piece, which is a steady electromagnetic charge. Now, say you was trying to, send something on the internet, you want a steady connection. You need that connection in order to conduct the electromagnetic transfer of energy so you can then, not just quantumly entangle, but maintain the quantum entanglement via the information being transferred. Now,
Right.
feeling jittery, you know what I'm saying? Your electromagnetic voltage is not high when you're jittery. When it's too low, that's depression. But when you're comfortable, when you're peaceful, that's when the dopamine is flowing to allow you to conduct the necessary feel in order to have this relationship with the sun. So when you perceive your body and your hormones as things that set the voltage in your body, it allows you to have a different sort of control. I actually did a personal experiment the other day. I was really in my feelings about something, and I was like, I really don't want to feel like this. But I had the perception that my feelings were an electromagnetic voltage setting in my body, right? And I was I'm hurt, so I'm feeling low and slow. So instead of me being like, let me cheer myself up, I said, let me increase the voltage of electricity in my body. Now I'm figuring out the how, but I felt it. Like even I could do it right now. Like give it a try. Right now, increase the voltage in your body. You can feel that, can't you?
Yeah. You can naturally.
That you can. And so I sat there for a minute and I just played with different voltages. I was like, what does happy feel like? What does peaceful feel like? And I was able to change settings in my body. So instead of going around trying to get myself to feel something, then to set my voltage, I took control and I set the voltage for what my feelings were. So when
Right.
you perceive your body has the ability to do that, you can click into the mode that you need to for whatever it is you need to do.
Exactly, exactly. And when we speak about voltage, we gotta understand that, when we talk about pH, potential hydrogen, we're talking about voltage in the body, the measurement of the amount of voltage in the body. We're made up, of course, of an amalgamation of cells, trillions of cells,
Mhm.
and each cell has to run off up to -20 to -25 millivolts in order to consider to be a healthy cell.
Right.
Cancer starts to set in the body when the pH, or the voltage is low. So the goal to electrify the body is, of course, not only to spend time in the sun, but also to eat electric foods, because understanding that the atom itself is like a little small nuclear fusion device.
Yes.
It has the same geometry, same reason why red blood cells look like a toroidal field,
Mhm.
because they are based on what I always consider the conjugate geometry of the universe, which
Yeah.
is the dielectric and magnetism.
Mhm.
So with that being said, once you bring in a higher level of electricity via diet, via sunlight, these small little nuclear fusion reactors are going to implode through themselves, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And that
Right.
acceleration through the center is what's going to allow you to tap into hyperdimensional energy,
Right.
because literally the atoms are acting like conductors,
Yes.
or transducers of higher dimensional energy.
Yes.
Um, and if you look up the science of
Mhm.
spherical harmonics will give you an image of what an atom looks like. It looks like, an hourglass. So it looks like an hourglass shape
Mhm.
superimposed on a donut. That's what an atom actually looks like.
Yeah.
And once we understand what spin symmetry is, relative to how quick the atoms that make up our body spin, based on the feeling that we bring in, whether it's appreciation, happiness, etc., that's going to initiate what you consider or call a dielectric acceleration, which
Right.
begins to speed up the spin of each atom that makes up the body, thus literally again coupling with the sun, coupling with higher star systems. And this is why today, even someone today even sent me an article on quantum entanglement. You're starting to hear more about quantum entanglement, because quantum entanglement is nothing more than your magnetic field engaging with the sun's magnetic field,
Right.
engaging with a higher star system's magnetic field. And when they can constructively embed within each other, that's quantum entanglement. And thus you
Right.
receive instantaneous communication from the
Right.
sun to you, back and
But
forth. It's a
people
two-way
always say
communication.
that quantum entanglement is connecting with something else, and they don't realize that you're quantumly entangled with yourself. You're quantumly entangled with every version of you in the past and every version of you in the future, due to the toroidal field that your heart made when it made a pulse all around your body. Each
Exactly.
one of the fields are entangled with the field before it. So a lot of times when people have the feeling of deja vu or something's familiar, whatever, that's actually information from the future that was so important that it reverberated in the past to a point where you perceived it, because you're quantumly entangled with yourself in every direction, to all
Mm-hmm.
dimensions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Speak of, what I'm saying, being phase locked, or that feeling of phase locked, that's when many of you who are quantumly entangled, I view the dimensions as being like diagonal, while the timeline you on is back and forth. You
Right.
have sort of symmetry where multiple of you are doing the same thing at the same time, and this creates a resonance within you which strikes you as strange or odd or deja vu or uncanny, because it's specific voltage that happens when these things all move together. It's almost that what happens to a glass when you hit the note that it's at, and right before it shatters. You know what I
Right.
mean? Wiggles. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right. Right.
It's
And
one
then,
of, go ahead.
oh no, just to add on real quick before we get into the stele, the science that the family can look up in reference to time moving forward and backward simultaneously, and you transmitting information, because that's what you're doing. Like she said, we have a field around us that move to in the past and the quote unquote future simultaneously. Information. So when I'm speaking, I'm disturbing what you would consider empty space, but it's like a rarefied version of water. And by me disturbing it, the information that we're speaking right now is going to the future and the past simultaneously. And the science that the family can look up relative to this is called Wheeler-Feynman handshake. Wheeler is Wheeler. Feynman is, I believe, Feynman handshake. The Wheeler-Feynman handshake. But that's again relative to the fact that the present moment is really just the future and the past that's came together. And the goal is to initiate a disturbance within both spaces in order to really crystallize the present moment and thus understand what your cosmic script is. But the goal is to, like we had spoken about earlier, to engage in a level of coherence by way of understanding that our outer reality is just electromagnetic waves, and based on your perception is going to entail how you feel about your day-to-day life. I always say depression comes from worrying about the past too much, and anxiety comes from worrying about the future too much. You know, so when you see people who are 50, 60 years old dressing like they're still 20, that's because they're still engaged in those times when they were younger, when they would consider that was the best time of their life. So it was so good that they don't want to leave it. So they just always keep referring back to that time, which leads to a state of depression. Anxiety comes from the fact that you may be having a good time in the present moment, and you're hoping that the future still remains the same as it is today. So, you know, that's where, you know, again, it's key to hone in on the present moment, because that's really what all exists. But simultaneously, the past and the future are naturally tethered to your field. And it's about being coherent through the heart by doing what you love doing on a regular basis. That's going to allow that part of you to communicate to the present you, the future you, and in the past you to communicate to you, and thus bring out what you're, you know, supposed to be living as a purpose in this, you know, reality. So,
you know, as gods, we have to be extremely intentional with what we do with our minds, because the universe is referencing us. The universe us. So if you are going to take some time to go into the past, do it with intentionality. Go to a moment that was good. Go to a moment where you understand, where you enjoy something, and bring those feelings back here, because the universe is looking at you to decide what's going to happen next. But if you living in the past, you living in a sorrow, you living in a trauma, which is a point of trauma to get you like quantumly entangled with a specific depression in space time. You understand? How much impact can you put on the future when you still living in a divot of another time? You know what I'm saying? Get present, because that is how you then change what's next. It is 100% absolutely possible to change what's next, as long as you perceive yourself as having the ability to do so.
Exactly. It's just like you said, it's all relative to perception. So, yeah, with that being said, we can get into the style, and you know, like we had spoke about the fact that this is our ancient technology. So, you know, it's key to really, like I spoke on, be symbol literate when it comes to looking at these glyphs, because it was information that they gave to us, because they knew there was going to be a time when Draco came from the North Pole, or the North Star, because that's who set up the North Pole was the Draco constellation. When Draco will move out, and then Polaris would take place, or take the place of Draco. So they understood when that switching of the poles took place, the switching of the age took place, we as a people were going to dismember ourselves. But again, the goal is to remember ourselves by doing the knowledge. So they left these symbols for us, so that way we can engage with the information for what they left, and thus initiate that same process, you know, in today's world. So, yeah.
So that's how we got to the stele, because you were seeing this stele and a feeling of what? Familiarity. Coming out every time you saw it, which is likely feelings from now that was reverberating in the past, that was telling you at some point you're going to dive in there and it's going to unlock something for you, right?
Right.
And a similar thing happened to me when I saw it, because you shared it, and I was like, there is something about this image. I know what's happening here. I need to know what's going on. So do you have the book, or you want me to show it on the book?
Go ahead and show it. Go ahead. If you got it in front of you, go ahead and show it.
And this isn't really a good picture of it.
But I know it's not, because I don't even know how to, Yeah, I don't even know how to share the image. I know people, they get on live. Let me know, family. Actually, if they, so the name of it, we can give them the name, and then they.
Yeah, name of it. Isn't it called like the Tenna Perret Stele? I think you have the name of it. But yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get you the name for it in a second.
yeah.
Yeah, this specific stele shared it, and it really, really stuck out to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
really stuck out to me. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, what is happening here? You know,
Mm-hmm.
We see Ra shooting these flowers.
Mm-hmm.
We see her in this beautiful translucent type of gown, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we see a table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was just like, what is happening here? What is
Mm-hmm.
going on here? And now that I've decoded it, I see it very clearly, but my eyes couldn't perceive it as something I could decode initially, right?
Right, 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 right.
So the way I approached it is me sharing with everyone else was I was like, you know what? I know I can figure out what is going on in this because I perceive this stele as something that my ancestors left for me to decode.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't figure it out. So what I did was I recreated the part of the image that looked like a machine, right? So
Right, right, right. The
I
drawing. Yeah.
right that I did. So it's a pretty large recreation drawing that I did
Mm-hmm.
of the stele. And as I was drawing each part, it made sense to me what I was looking at. When I first started it, I didn't do it, but as I did it more and more, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is what I'm looking at, right?
Yeah.
So
And,
first,
and and
go
for the
ahead.
family too, that's exactly what it looks like. That's so the picture that she was holding up in the book. In the book, the title of that book. Shout out to my guy. The title of the book is what's the title of the book?
Electric Ancient Egyptian.
Electric Ancient Egyptian. Yeah, so that's for the people who want to refer back to that image, it's in that particular book. But what you just held up, the drawing for the family, that's exactly what the image looked like. So basically what we're going to do is break down the symbology in reference to what they were speaking about when it came to that specific glyph. So go ahead, because I know you were getting ready to discuss something.
Right. So this was something that we worked on like together over a course of a few days, really dissecting part by part, piece by piece, what made sense with each other, right? So of course the first thing I noticed is that this is a table. This is a table of sorts holding something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We started to, so this is old girl in her dress. It's translucent, but it's also sticking out. So when I redrew this, I made sure to be extremely intentional about what was touching what wasn't touching what,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
placed, and their proximity to each other, and also the color differences.
Right.
Everything about symbology. So
Mm-hmm.
when you notice that this was sticking out from the dress, we're like, oh, this is static electricity. You know what I mean? This
Mm-hmm.
is now so much about what the Egyptians were doing was about the electricity they could cultivate from their bodies to,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
imagine the first time you see static electricity and you around everything is around you is granite and marble. You know what I mean? That's going to be a huge part. It's going to be
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know their interaction with the fur and the cats was about being able to get some of that static electricity up and
Mm-hmm.
going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she's electrifying whatever this table is. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's being initialized by her.
Right.
You know,
Right. Right.
now also it made very intentional show she was barefoot and touching the ground. So
Mm-hmm.
she's also grounded. You'll see in other images, the gods are intentionally not grounded. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
Are grounded to allow the electricity to flow through her, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, we come up here to these two things. I was very intentional about understanding that this was on top of it. This red thing was on top of it, which
Right.
to me felt like a hose, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a hose because they made these lines all wiggly intentionally. And I knew it was intentionally because these ones were super sharp.
Right. Right.
Okay,
Right.
so a difference between those two, what would I see coming out of something that could have a loop and be wiggly? It would have to be some sort of emission, some
Mm-hmm.
sort They know, our ancestors knew that we would get to the point, you understand, where we would make something that would have to come out of a hose, and it would
Right.
be, because you can see exhaust. You
Mm-hmm.
can,
Mm-hmm.
what does
Mm-hmm.
it look like? Wiggly, right?
Right.
So right here we have whatever these are. Now, even if I don't quote unquote know what these are, what I am seeing is compression.
Mm-hmm.
These are being compressed, and they were intentional to make sure it went from one being bigger to one being smaller. Now, what came to me today, as I was talking to you earlier, they obviously had an understanding that if we were to get to this point where we can understand this, we would have at some point understood atomic structure. We
Right.
would
Right.
have in the center with things circling it inside of an enclosed space. So anybody who knows what an atom is going to look at this and say, this is an atom of sorts. They
Mm-hmm.
were about making these different to show that there were at least two different sort of atoms that were experiencing compression in an enclosed space, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So as I'm drawing, as I get further up, I'm like, okay, so we have this thing right here. So I'm like, this, and I was like, this is some sort of frying pan. Like they are heating
They're heating something.
flour up.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like this is a probably a copper slab, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That's being excited from this compression of energy, air, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Being held by this here. This is probably just a placeholder for it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's exciting whatever this is to heat this up. They alternate the energy. They were intentional about alternating it. Red, blue, red, blue.
Yeah.
Also down, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Which
okay, this is another sort of energy that is coming upward.
right. Which will denote the red and the blue would denote, of course, electromagnetism. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so they're utilizing light, and like you said, the images that look like balls. For those who are familiar with cymatics, we've seen where basically they take sound and put sand on a like on a disc, and then they produce sound, and the sand begins to take on very complex geometrical lattices. So
Mm-hmm.
if you look at these discs in the center, it's speaking about compression, but what we've came to the conclusion of is the fact that what they're doing is they're demonstrating what compressed air looks like, because again, as I'm speaking, my vocal cords are disturbing what we consider empty space. Now this empty space begins to take on a specific geometrical lattice relative to cymatics.
Mm-hmm.
So based on what they were demonstrating, they're utilizing some form of vibration, or something basically. And see, let me point this out, because I've been studying Nikola Tesla for a while now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's well known that he received all of his information off the walls. So by
Right.
me studying Nikola Tesla, that is my reference point to some of the information that he's developed or that he's written, coming directly from us. So I understood too that Nikola Tesla produced a steam engine that allowed him to basically compress the air, liquefy it, to thus initiate or power what he called his TMT, his Tesla magnetic transmitter. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what delivered basically free energy. So by understanding that Nikola Tesla had the capacity to liquefy the air and compress it, that's exactly what they're demonstrating here. But like we had talked about, they had to articulate and illustrate what compressed air looks like by way of drawing out what again appears to be some form of cymatics.
Right.
So like I said, we disturb the space when I'm swinging my hand, when I'm speaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's generating what we consider a geometrical lattice. And like I said earlier, if you look up spherical harmonics, you'll see what I'm speaking about. So every time you initiate a disturbance within the dielectric field, which again is considered empty space, that's going to initiate a specific geometry, and that's exactly what they're showing there. So what
Yes.
we've basically noticed is, again, they're utilizing some form of technology. In the red and the blue represents electromagnetism. The
Yeah.
plate, like you said, represents copper,
Mm-hmm.
and basically the plant itself is then being heated to then deliver a specific vapor. Now, if you want to tap in and give them the knowledge on the vapor and what it's
Yeah.
doing to the body, that'd be a
Yeah.
good segue.
So the vapor is from the blue lotus flower. Now my brain initially tells me that it's morning glory, it's high John, because that is my context of it. And that's where you make LSD from, right? You make that from morning glory flowers.
Right.
But it's something about that blue flower, right? So if both flowers are blue, that means that they're holding a specific electromagnetic frequency that our eyes are interpreting as the color blue, which carries certain information. Very few things in the world naturally are blue. We have a lot of blue now because we dye things, but especially back then, where people were making fake pigments in that sort of way, very few things are blue. And blue is associated with what's sacred, right? Because it's right before purple, which is what, and beyond that, we can't see. Right, and opening to the beyond. So my brain drew it as a high John flower because that's what I reference. Now if all I have available to me is a high John flower, because I don't have blue lotus flower, but I interacted with this in the same way, I will have a similar experience, because there's something about the information that the blue flower holds that they were trying to communicate. So when I was looking into blue lotus flower and what it does, the properties in it, the blue lotus flower causes the body to release certain chemicals, right? So what people have to understand is that anytime you take LSD, anytime you take shrooms, anytime you take MDMA, it is not the substance itself that's making you high. What doing is initializing a production of hormones that then either bind to the receptor or block the receptor off, which then initializes a set of processes within the body. So this blue lotus flower, the smell of it or the ingestion of it hits on all three of your dopamine receptors. So they're called non-selective agitators. So it's not like it's only like this one fits in one and this one fits in two and this one fits in three. Nah, it hit all of them. You know, it goes and it binds to the receptor. Now, when this agitator, which is what this thing that binds to the receptor, your body produces it and it binds to the receptor, it allows a certain electromagnetic frequency to steady throughout the body. Right. And when that electromagnetic receptor is hit, your body also releases norepinephrine. Your body also releases GABA. And what I learned recently is GABA is a neurotransmitter that is deeply important for dendrites. It's deeply important for the sending of electromagnetic energy, the holding and programming of memory, right? And so once the agitator is still, all these other things become produced, and then you start having what people call a quote unquote trip. Now in this stele, she's smelling the vapors from the flower and then looking at Ra. And looking directly at Ra as he's sending her the energy directly from his head, right? What I've been saying and feeling for some time, they're extremely literal. They have two eyes right here, a right and a left. They distinguish it at the bottom. Here's a right one, here's a left one. And they have in the center a disc, right? That's it. That's your right eye. But they're intentional about making this disc the exact same as the disc on his head. They are trying to communicate a connection between the sun and your third eye. What's trying to be communicated here? They make it super clear. Hey, you with two eyes, the thing in the middle, it's also the same thing as this thing right here, right? So she's feeling the vapors, and she's getting channels of information directly from the sun to her, and she's perceiving it through all five of her senses, through her sixth sense, through her eyes, through her nose, through her mouth, through feeling, and through her hands, right? Grounded, she's filled with static electricity, so she is now able to maintain the electromagnetic field necessary in order to intake whatever this information that is coming in from the sun to her. Right? Now, if I just tried to read whatever this was, that wasn't going to tell me shit about everything that was happening here. The point of this was for you to look at this with your own two eyes and see what is happening.
And I want to hone in too, again, it's important that you spoke on the fact of what the vapor is doing, because it's initiating a feeling that's building up the voltage in the body. And the voltage is based on the fact that once you get a high enough pH or voltage, a high enough voltage, that's what's going to allow you to assimilate with the magnetic field of the sun. based
Yes.
on you now having a higher level of appreciation for what you're looking at. So the vapor is just to basically initiate the endocrine output, which are the hormones, which then give the instructions to the body to raise the voltage up. So that way you're coherent enough to receive the information coming from the sun.
Right.
So,
Go ahead.
oh no, just bait. So with that being said, and you know, for those who just tapped in, I'll briefly go over it again in reference to, you know, what's taking place by way of you having a higher level of appreciation. Your magnetic field basically is engaging with whatever you're experiencing at the moment. So your SA node, which are myocytes, which are muscle cells in the heart, extrapolate that light from your magnetic field and then deliver that to the AV node, which then initiates the pulse. Now that pulse is going to be different compared to a pulse that you regularly have when you're just more in like a regular state. Now, when you're excited, when you're, you know, happy, when you're doing something you love doing, this pulse is going to be a little different. And this AV node, again, is what translates whatever the morphogenetic field or your magnetic field is perceiving based on the SA node, encoding that, translating it to the AV node to initiate the pulse. And that pulse is going to follow the same sequence relative to the sun, because now, based on the heart developing the magnetic field, your heart is going to be coherent enough, or your magnetic field is going to be coherent enough to engage with the magnetic field of the sun and thus receive the information coming from it.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to.
Pyramids. The three pyramids are your two adrenals,
Mm-hmm.
and that one in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Those are pyramids.
Yes, and to again, I wanted to reference as well, because we get so caught up in, you know, the physical representation of the pyramids, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we got to understand that the ancestors understood anatomy. They understood microbiology. They didn't have a reference point to what God was or what this triple black state represented. So in order for them to duplicate God outside of them, they first had to understand anatomy. So
Right.
when you see the pyramids, you're just seeing what's already within you. So we are technically we are the pyramids. We have
Mm-hmm.
the same capacity to translate information from the heavens, just like the pyramids do. But again, them understanding fractal symmetry and that the universe is self-referencing, they had to duplicate what was inside
Right.
outside in order for the pyramids then to translate and transduce information coming from Orion or all these star systems. So that way, once they orientated their physical bodies in the pyramid in such a way, they allowed then that information to come back from Orion down and be processed within the body. You
Right.
see? So
Yeah. Because
yeah.
the body is the most efficient quantum robot that has ever been created. The fact that it can maintain itself, it can replicate itself, it can heal itself is incredible. But it is just an interface. It is just an interface mechanism, because we don't exist inside these bodies. We actually are conducted within this electromagnetic field that's around us, right? And that's how magnetic field goes out, which is our heart stops beating. We stop being conducted in that magnetic field. It's like unplugging, almost like unplugging a computer of sorts, you know. But I want to get back to
Yeah.
this other stele, which is this next point, which is what we have been talking about for a few days now, which is this right here.
Mm-hmm.
In the power of the collective. So over the next few days, y'all, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know what you think this is, right? So we keep referencing it as the lava lamp, but we have to also put it in the context that we are perceiving that through the word, the English concept, the modern concept of a lava lamp. But however, it's clear that he modeled that off of what this is.
Show them. Go to the book and then show them like the actual picture of it, so they can have two reference points.
You have two reference points for it.
Yeah.
So here it is at the bottom of the table. Right. Right before the call, I found a whole bunch of other ones in the book. I didn't even get to tell you this. Here go another one.
Yeah.
Let me see. I found another one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here go another one. Here go some other ones. They all have that thing wrapped around them and that flower on the side of it. So, you know, trying to get behind and ahead of the conception has been put in my brain of what
Right.
that, you know what I mean? They're being intentional about it because they know they waiting for us. They
Exactly.
for us
Exactly.
to interpret this for them. That's what I felt when I went back and watched all the old Bobby Hemmett videos and old Phil Valentine videos. I was like, these Egyptologists had no idea what any of this
What they
was.
were looking at. They
We
didn't know what they
started.
were looking at. Right. Right.
They had
Right.
no idea until then. They
Right.
didn't. God knows what about whatever. Oh, open thine mouth, book of the dead. Woo, woo, woo. They didn't know
They
nothing
didn't
about
know what they were
nothing
looking
until we interpreted.
at. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to understand, why would they, one, try to get in front of us in terms of what this quote unquote lava lamp is, and two, what is it? Because I've noticed that it is under all the tables that is heating something up.
Mm-hmm.
Anything getting heated up has that lava lamp on it. How does somebody ask the name of the book?
And that's a powerful, and for the family, I recommend you guys purchase that, because again, it's going to give you more of the science. Mind you, these are Egyptologists that are writing these books. But our ancestors left this information for us to translate. So, that's why it's important to really do the knowledge, because once you go into the books, all this information is already encoded within your DNA, within your magnetic field, etc. But it's all about fashioning the brain in such a way to allow the brain to tap into that information that's already stored within your magnetic field, and thus transduce it, develop the necessary hormones, which are the intelligence or the instructions that
Yeah,
then stimulate that intelligence that's already encoded within you, and thus bring it to the conscious mind.
yeah. Literally
So
already encoded in you via your DNA. Start to right now, from this moment, view your brain as view the DNA almost like a USB stick that has
mhm,
information in it, and view your brain as a CPU in which you can plug in and unwrap and unwind and decode that information. Because let me keep it hot with you. That's what they're doing with this 23andMe. They are taking y'all's DNA and playing your ancestors' memory in past life, because they looking for something. They ain't finna find it, but they looking for something. You understand?
exactly, exactly.
So the first thing you have to do is get rid of all doubt. Stop doubting your abilities, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Stop doubting what it is that your body does and how it functions. Number three, then actually go and trust yourself. Whenever I be trying to train people on how to either perceive past lives or whatever, it's about understanding the physical mechanisms of the brain and how it feels different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Different to push something than to pull something, right? So right now, if I tell you, think of the first few lines of one of your favorite 50 Cent songs, you're gonna think of something immediately. Boom, it comes
Right,
easy.
right.
Write a song right now, come up with some lyrics. It feels
Mm-hmm.
physically different,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those two
Mm-hmm.
processes.
Mm-hmm.
So you can run whatever is coming up in your brain through that test. If it feels and comes easy, that's likely a memory. That's likely something you're decoding. Now, if you're pushing for it and you're trying for it, that's something you making up. You
Right,
understand?
right,
So once
right.
you understand how those two things feel different, you can understand, oh, wow, this is a past life memory. So you trigger those past life memories through what I've learned through this, and what we also, I'm so glad they make around, is through smell. So they always say
Okay.
smell specifically is the one sense you never forget. If you smell something that smells like your granny house, you can be like, oh shit, that smells like my granny house. If you
Exactly.
smell something that smells like the candle that was burning, like the first time you went on a date, you're like, oh my God, that smells like that candle from the first time I went on a date, right?
Mm-hmm.
About this blue lotus, because as Alkebulan knows, I'm gonna get right to it immediately. The day we decoded this, I went to the store and got some blue lotus tincture
Got
and some.
to do it. Right.
I on day like 60 of brewing my blue lotus wine downstairs.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, usually I talked to you today. I made it, and what I realized with it was I had the best effects of it from the smell.
The smell of it.
I,
Right.
and yeah, it was a taste to it. It tastes like a perfume blueberry. I can't explain it.
Right.
The smell of it is what did it for me. Even with the tincture, I found myself putting the tincture under my tongue, but then going right and just smelling the tincture like that. And I'm like, that's because the way in which smell impacts the limbic system,
It's,
which are the wires, right?
mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so smell that blue lotus, it triggers a memory in me that's encoded through my DNA from the past. So it started triggering stuff in me immediately. I had some wild dream experiences. I built an altar, took that Blue Lotus, went to sleep, and woke up like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of something,
Yeah.
because it unlocked a memory, a set of processes within my body that had been stored from ancient times that the smell released and unlocked within me.
Yes. And see, you're honing in on the limbic system. The limbic system in Kemet was the horns of Amun. And if you look up the horns of Amun, it'll be a ram. So it's no coincidence why today in computers, what is the memory part of the computer? The RAM.
Mm.
So, you know, when you smell something, it initiates some sort of resemblance to an experience you had. That's
Mm.
because, again, that information is being integrated within the limbic system, which is then stimulating the feeling emotionally that you have. And again, emotions is just electricity surging through the body. But again, this is enacting a specific hormone, which are instructions to then stimulate the information that's encoded within your DNA and thus bring it to the conscious mind.
Right.
I want to say this really quick. Even this is for those who are even partaking in the God Body challenge, and not to segue off, but I want to hint on the fact that, you know, when we're speaking about sensation and feeling, um, you know, when we look at sound, right? When we look at specifically the 440 hertz frequency, because what I do, you know, when people are on the fast, I encourage people to listen to high frequency music. So, you know, all of us know about the universal, you know, hertz frequency, which is 432. Now, these two frequencies were taught in Kemet. The 432 hertz frequency, if you add those three numbers, you get 9. And the number 9 was taught in the temple of Heliopolis in Kemet. The number 9 denotes to time and space. Now, if you move over to the 440 hertz frequency, you add those numbers, you get 8. The number 8 was taught in the temple of Hermopolis in Kemet, which denotes to matter. So what they understood, the people who convoluted the frequency, they switched it to the 440 hertz frequency because they understood that specific frequency traps light into matter. So
Yes.
we wonder why a lot of us are so depressed. We're depressed because we can't allow the light to escape our own awareness or our own bubble to engage with a higher level of consciousness.
Right.
So what the 440 hertz frequency does is it traps light into matter. And people who live within their own bubble aren't considered conscious because they can't take two things that seem like they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum and synthesize them together to create a bigger picture because they lack the awareness. Now, with the 432 hertz frequency, again, when you add those numbers, you get 9, which is taught in the temple of Heliopolis, which deals with time and space. They understood that that specific frequency allows light to escape, which means now you're able to leave outside of your bubble and thus engage in the broader reality and see two things that seem unrelated, synthesize them together to create the bigger picture. So we ask ourselves, why are we depressed? You know, why do we feel down all the time? It's all relative to the frequency. And that frequency that's being produced is the 440 hertz frequency, which again literally traps your awareness into your own bubble, and thus you can't even engage with a higher level of consciousness because that frequency is biologically affecting you.
Right.
So yeah, I wanted to add that piece. So for those who are on the build or on the God Body Challenge, I encourage you. You know, you want to do everything to aid this process. So make sure you're alleviating yourself from listening to lower hertzian frequency music, etc., and tap into a more you know, a higher frequency of music. You know, so yeah, I felt like that piece was appropriate for this conversation because again, it all
appropriate, especially when I'm thinking, because when you were saying that, I'm thinking about, you know, how, like, yeah, we have all this information. How do you technically apply it, right? Let's say somebody watching this is like, bro, I'm down, I'm hurt, I'm low, I'm depressed. What can I do about it? You know, when I was feeling depressed or anxious, I kept being like, okay, well, I was approaching it scientifically, being like, okay, well, I know I need dopamine, I know I need serotonin. What vitamins can I take to increase this? What can I do that? Can I do that? When I realized that my body will produce the dopamine I need to brace me up as long as I tell my body to go do so, right?
Right,
So
right.
I then give my body that sensation and believe that it's happening so that it produces more to maintain it? And for me, I have this, my favorite incense, what they got? Everybody got them. The blue box and non champa. What mood I can be in, I can light those. The smell of it then brings me peace, and then my body responds to that by creating more dopamine.
Exactly.
You have to initialize the process through the input of emotional information. You understand? So if you're already down, being on Instagram and scrolling through other shit is not going to be what's necessary to even kickstart that process that you are going to have to cultivate. You have to sit at the seat of your emotions and gain control. You can feel angry, but you don't need to be angry. You can feel depressed, but you don't need to be depressed. You understand?
Right.
You sit in the driver's seat, and these feelings and emotions are things that you can experience and move through, but you be the ultimate maintainer of the voltage. And what you got to realize is the further you go along on this spiritual journey, the more the lessons get personal. It don't get easier. It gets right close to home with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones, with your job, with your money. And the test is, how can you maintain your godhood in the face of all that? Why? Because the archons are seeking to feed off of the enlightened ones. They always have, and they always will. They only feed off of you when your electromagnetic field is low.
It's low.
If it's
low.
They chink, 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 but they not going to get in. So you have to maintain your electromagnetic voltage and keep it high. Whatever it is you got to do, whether that's you spending time going on a walk, whether that's you listening to your favorite song, whether that's you getting your nails done, whether that's whatever it is you got to do to keep your voltage high, because the further along you go in this spiritual journey, the more personal the journey is going to get, and it's going to come right to your front door.
Right.
So it's important for us to have this information and share it with each other right now, because we are part of a cosmic narrative of an unfolding and an unveiling of what's happening in our realm. All of us are seeing it. If you hear with us now, you know it. You having the dreams, you having the feelings, you having the altar. You hear because this is here. So now that we are here, how do we make sure that we are the ones that's in charge of our rendering power and our impact on the universe? And the way you do that is by, one, addressing your trauma, because that's how archons get you. They fuck with your voltage through your trauma. Address process it, let it go, because that's how the archon's going to get you. And number two, you got to center yourself in the way that you move and stay focused on the fact that you are the creator of this realm. We are co-creating this realm. It's 144,000 of us. So we got this. So when the trauma comes up, yes, oh wow, that was some rough ass shit that happened to me when I'm 5, but right here, right now, I'm all right. Move through it and center your voltage and keep going, because we have work to do. All of us are doing our individual work on the specific nodes that we are on this earth plane. You know what I mean? So how don't get into our work doesn't get interfered, which is maintaining our voltage. How? Making sure that you are, one, putting electricity in your body, that you treating your body as though it literally is a temple, and also that you are in control of your feelings by mastering your trauma and learning how to incite and control the voltage of your body. So now that y'all have this information, integrate it. Test it out for everyday life. Next time somebody piss you the fuck off and you feel that voltage, bring it down.
Bring it down. Maintain it. Yeah.
You do it.
Maintain it.
Not
and
look,
yeah. Let it breathe for a second. Sheesh. So that's why it's important to understand that your emotions is what produces certain hormones. So if you're angry all the time, or mad, or upset, or responding emotionally, what that's going to do is instruct the body to produce the hormones that then begin to instruct the body to then bring in tumors, to bring in cancer, to bring in disease, because that's your body's natural defense mechanism in order to stop you from thinking the way you are. See, a lot of people don't correlate disease to thought. But again, if we understand that the magnetic field is a resonant structure, and by way of you engaging with the lower frequency of thought, that's going to initiate hormones that instruct the body to produce cancer. So that way your body gets your attention to stop you from thinking the way that you're thinking. Also, I want to include as well that when you look at the Eye of Heru, and a lot of people may have seen this symbol, like the Eye of Heru has fractions. It's a picture of the Eye of Heru, then it has like the 1/2, then the 1/4, then the 1/8, the 1/16, the 1/32, the 1/64. Now, a lot of people don't understand what this science represents, but it's speaking about breathing. Now, and this is key too, again, for those who are partaking in the God Body Challenge, when you look at that specific symbol, and people can pull it up on Google, type in the Eye of Heru fractions, and it'll pull up. But each part of that eye is denoted to a specific part of the brain. What they also understood is that each fraction is based on the ratio of breathing that you do. So, for example, if you look at the 1/2, what that's telling you is to breathe in twice, then exhale. The 1/4, inhale 4 times, exhale. The 1/8, breathe in 8 times, exhale once. And your body naturally does this. For example, like if you're emotional and you know, when you're crying, and I'm talking about wailing, like seriously crying, like, you know, what your body naturally does to basically stabilize your emotions is you begin to breathe in more than you exhale. So you're doing a, you know, when you're crying and you're doing that, your body naturally is kicking in the intelligence to stabilize your emotions, so that way your rational mind kicks in, so you don't act erratic and do something based on your emotions that you regret doing. That's what's happening when you're breathing in more than you're exhaling. You're allowing yourself to tap into the involuntary nervous system, which you can't necessarily tap into being conscious or being aware of it. You see? So again, when we're talking about emotions, you know, the key is to really engage with the fact of being neutral. All of our ancestors understood that the outer reality, first of all, let me draw back. First of all, we all agreed to experience everything that we've been through up until this point. Now, if you can understand that, then you lose the victim mindset. Now, with that understood, understand too that your outer reality is what they consider an illusion, but what they're talking about is it can be manipulated. So in a sense, what our ancestors always taught us was that when something undesirable is happening to you, whether it's a negative experience, you know, a negative person saying something to you, be neutral and don't respond off emotion, because what happens is when you remain coherent by way of being neutral, neutralizing the 0 point, you allow then the experience to tell you what you need to know in reference to what you need to do. So somebody who acts erratic, say if somebody, you know, were to drive in a, you know, if you were driving a car and somebody were to abruptly cut you off, how we've been triggered and conditioned through epigenetics is to respond off emotion, because all of us are emotional. We're some of the most, if not the emotional beings on the planet. But that emotion is knowing, them knowing, let's just call them the higher ups knowing that, you know, we are emotionally triggered very easy. They can put out certain movies, certain music, and it's going to initiate a specific instruction in the body relative to the hormones. Now, back to the example I was using. If somebody were to cut you off, what you're supposed to do in that moment, it doesn't matter if your car starts spinning. It don't matter if, you know, stuff start falling off the passenger seat. What you're supposed to do is allow the experience to talk to you. The only way to do that is to remain neutral, because that's how you properly extrapolate the lesson out of the experience. You see, and thus you learn the lesson, and then you continue on with your script that you chose to go through and experience in this reality. So emotion is key. Again, emotion is just electricity surging through the body. You see, so the feeling is everything. And stress is a perception that a person decides to have about an experience. I'm gonna say it again. Stress is a perception that an individual decides to have about an experience. You see? So relative to your emotional state, that's going to instruct the body to then again produce the instructions to lead into cancer and disease, because this is your body's natural mechanism to defend itself based on the thought that you have relative to the experience that you're having.
Right, correct. And I've seen in the comments that several people were saying like they feel like they want to cry, or they feel like they want to cry release, allow that to happen. You have to understand that very similar to the body in the sky, the presence of water appearing due to an uptick in electromagnetic energy and frequency. The same way that they make it rain by electromagnetically exciting the clouds. So when you're taking on and integrating this new information, the amount of voltage that's in your body is very new. It might incite water to come out of, you know what I'm saying, your eyes, your orifices. Allow it to happen. Allow yourself to feel these things. You know what I mean? And that leads me to this other thing I really want us to really understand is that we got them on the ropes, y'all. They shaking in boots because we are now assuming the admin position in this reality again. For many years, we have been away from the driver's seat because we never perceived ourselves as having the physical mechanism, aka a body, to impact the realities that come about in this realm. And they have hijacked our brain's rendering powers via TV, via movies, where we create realities that's conducive for them. And we decide not to. And so because I'm quantumly entangled with everything, I was driving the other day and I kept seeing all these chemtrails and I had enough. And I stopped my car and I sent an electromagnetic burst from my body to set around to go up into the ionosphere to break that shit up. Because I perceive myself as being able to do it. And guess what? Yes. I want every single person watching this to now perceive yourself as being able to do it and thusly go do it. Literally go do it. Ability to.
It's about having the audacity. Like, we call ourselves gods and goddesses, but do we truly believe that we're gods and goddesses? See, for me personally, I have the audacity to say that a specific color and a number is going to play out. Now, I could go wrong. I could, fall short. People looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, why is this dude calling these numbers and colors? But again, it's the belief in knowing that it's going to play out. When you remove doubt out of your mind, anything is possible. Because in the Bible, what do they say? You can't enter the kingdom of heaven unless you're of the mind of a child. What are they talking about? When you use your imagination and you have the audacity to command reality to work for you, that's how your magnetic field opens up to allow the source to come in and dictate what you do. It's again, man, it's
experiment. Do it on your own first. Experiment. Go out tomorrow and say, I'm gonna see a blue Camry. I'm gonna see 3 blue Camrys before 11 a.m. Do it. Believe it. Not, oh, if I see it, then that means no. State it. Dictate it. Do it. And then once you prove yourself that you can do it, then make it bigger. Then make it bigger. Then make it. Get yourself into the mindset of having the audacity to do it. And for me, a quote unquote ritual is something that stimulates all 5 of my senses to get me level. So when I'm doing ritual, I want to see something beautiful. I want to smell something beautiful. I want to taste something beautiful. I want to feel something beautiful. So for me, a ritual could be, I'm about to have me a really great dinner and go sit in the hot tubs. You know what I mean?
Right,
and then
right.
I done got myself all together. And now I'm like, this is what's going to happen. And, I talked to you about it. About the things that gonna happen, and then 48 hours later they do, because I have the audacity not just to believe that I can, but to know who I am. You know who you are in this cosmic story, in this cosmic narrative.
Right.
Don't have it twisted. Believe the signs that are telling you this is who you are. This is who you're playing out, because you are not someone reincarnated from the past. You are that exact same person stacked on top of yourself in different dimensions. And once you realize that you are them, y'all will phase lock, and then you will see things happen more and more. I have phase locked with the other dimensional me's multiple times over the last few months in a way that it's no longer deniable. It's no longer deniable. Y'all know who you are. Declare who you are. Declare who you are, and then move like it, because that is how we're really going to shift this reality. That's how when these jokers go to their altars and their temples and their gods don't respond to them anymore, that's because they know we woke back up.
Exactly.
They have not been able to coordinate He has not been, King Philip, quote unquote, has not been coordinated, and he ain't gonna be, because it's a wrap for them, because things were already handled in the other realms. They don't know what's going on. The prophecies fulfilled themselves. They forgot the assignment. They so focused on their evils and the wars, they forgot the assignment was to make sure that we never remember. And the fact that we're talking right now, they fucked up.
Yeah. And the fact too, that's why it's key to understand that when you see these articles coming out with the, they just found a tomb, or Cleopatra, or not Cleopatra, Nefertiti, they found Nefertiti's tomb and things of that nature. Understand that that's your gauge to overstand that that is a way to see your cosmic script playing out relative to what's playing out on a cosmic level. So when you see that they're unveiling Nefertiti, please believe that it's time for you to lock in to your specific purpose, your passion. And this is why Western science developed equations like E equals MC squared, because if you understand that represents human energy equals mass times the speed of light. We are the mass. The Dogons understood spin symmetry, meaning that we are spinning faster than the speed of light. With that being said, there are two forces that are working with us. There's one pushing against us and one accelerating us forward. Based on how you maintain the balance of these two forces is going to determine how fast the mass moves. Now, how to accelerate and phase lock with the earth and thus phase lock with the sun, the solar system, and everything is doing what you love doing. There's no coincidence why, when you do what you love doing, time seems to be moving faster. All relative to, again, perception, because I could be standing in line behind an older woman for 2 minutes, getting all upset, angry, etc., as opposed to standing in line at a club for 2 hours, but be completely excited. And that 2 hours seem like 20 minutes. But guess what? I just aged faster standing behind an old woman as opposed to standing in a line at the club for 2 hours, because it was based on my perception in my present moment relative to my emotions. You see? So this is what
hormones that your body produced while you were feeling that. While you feeling angry and frustrated, your body is producing cortisol. The cortisol is going and also releasing free radicals, which are impacting your telomerase, which is impacting your ability to regenerate and impacting your ATP throughout your cells. These hormones are telling your body, we are at war. Focus your energy on something else, all because you mad you standing in line.
Right.
There are physical mechanisms in place for what your brain states is going on.
Right. And if we understand that age, when you age is just advanced glycation end. Age, AGE, is advanced glycation end. Now, this is why they had to create time to be linear, because whenever we look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, our magnetic field, our mind, looks and perceives that reality to be in a straight line, as if we're running a race, as if we're chasing after something. And they even convoluted our minds to believe that the goal is to chase money. So we spend so much time chasing money as opposed to truly understanding how this body works, how our emotions correspond to how we create reality. So we drive ourselves crazy chasing money instead of being present in the moment and truly understanding, okay, let me go into this information, break down these glyphs, see what our ancestors were talking about. Boom. Okay, I got that information. Let me go over here. So we lose the sight of what the purpose of reality is. Because like I said on the show on Black Magic, we speak about what is the purpose of life, but we all know once we incarnate into this reality, we're dying. So the real question should be, what is the purpose of death? So with that being said, our goal is to maintain the integrity, not of our genetics, but also our magnetic field, our plasma field, because once the physical body drops, the plasma field now has been so electric based on us living a certain discipline that now it has the capacity to reach enough escape velocity. That's what they, going into rocketry and things of that nature. That's what they study. Our plasma body now has the ability to reach enough escape velocity to successfully disengage from the physical body and return back as a star. You see? So what we've gotten caught up in is believing that consciousness is about how many jewels you have on, how many rings you got on, how many dashikis you got, how many times you can say Hotep in a day, how many times you can call her queen in a day, how many times you can call him queen in a day, peace God, peace love. All of this we consider to be consciousness. Consciousness is just about holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. And also the impact you have on the gods around you. What sort of electromagnetic imprint are you making on those around you and the things around you? And not just people. How are you treating your home, which is a being? How are you treating your car? How are you treating your phone? What imprint are you leaving on the realm? So being conscious is not about what it looked like. It's about what feel like.
What it feels like. What it
What it
feels
feels.
like. What it feels like. What
But
it
I gotta rap. I gotta go get my little star.
Okay, okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, I'm so thankful to be on here. Love this experience. If you enjoy what I have to say, please feel free to follow me. You know, most times I don't really talk like this on live or on main. Most times I just keep this in the inbox with the other gods. You know, I consider myself librarian of the Akashic Records. So if you have any questions about something or anything that came up, you can hit me up. I'll pull out the files, and I promise you, I got something for you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
Yeah.
please to you know what I'm saying, reach out, to follow me, and I'm going to be more intentional. Spirit told me that it's time for me to come out into the world, back into the world as a teacher, as a guide, as a resource, as in our ascension process, and eventually, you know, it will be evident to the community, you know, who I am and what purpose I serve and what
Right.
memory I'm meant to trigger within the community as we are going through this process of our internal soul alchemy. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That was an amazing build. For the family again, God Body Challenge Day 1. Well, got nothing to say after that. You know, for those who want to tap in with me personally, shoot me a DM. I'm doing the Build 60 and the Build 90. If you want a personal one-on-one dialogue, shoot me a DM. I'll respond. Uh, I mean, yeah, just we let the plane land there. It's yeah, we
You
did it.
gonna save the live? You gonna save the live?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna save
All right.
this. People want to tune in. I'll put it up, and in due time, you know, like I said, I hope everybody took heed. You know, we are the true master masons. We are the architects of our reality, and our body is the temple. So as long as we take and chisel the way that we naturally do as a people, build up the body to a coherence where we can tap into the source, you know, we'll be unstoppable. So with that said, I'm done.
Peace.
Peace, peace.